Ig, who was supposed to be on today, is not here today, but hopefully he's doing all right. So how are you guys doing?
Pretty good. I'm not going to get into it, but it's been an absolute crazy time. I drove from Tennessee down to New Jersey to get a different car. My lease was up. Drove back to Tennessee. Didn't love the car. There was not what we thought it was. Drove back to Jersey again
Come
to get the
on.
to get the to exchange it. They didn't have the right car they told me, and it was a saga, but it all worked out in the end. But it was just I'm still sort of exhausted too. I'm just finally feeling better. It was a lot. It's a big toll on your body driving that much. Oh my god, it was crazy.
You do realize that there's 4 or 5 states in between Tennessee and New Jersey, and they all sell cars, right?
Yeah, but I had already had one. Um, I had already got it from this place. Would have had to have driven it back anyway because I had to drop off the lease.
You must have really hated it. What was your main concern?
No, the original one, my lease was just up.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second, but then the car I got a Kia Sportage Hybrid LX. There was just a lot of things I didn't like about it. It didn't have a certain safety feature. The seats were very uncomfortable, and I just didn't like it. It wasn't good. I didn't enjoy driving it, and there's plenty of other cars that were for the same price. So I was like, let me put it back, and I wound up getting something. And I learned that I was all big into getting the hybrid, but I did the math, and I was going to get one and exchange it for something that was like $45 more a month. It actually comes out to be a net loss. The $45 more a month comes out to be a lot more than what I would have saved in gas. So until the technology is really at the point where the hybrids are cheaper or the fully electric ones are cheaper, it actually doesn't make sense for the type of driving that I did. Maybe if I was in the city, then it would make more sense. But because I drive mostly highway miles, it doesn't make sense. So, and I figure in the next 4 years or 3 years, the technology is going to get much better and much cheaper, and that's when it'll be time to invest in an electric vehicle.
Well, that all depends on the election as well.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, which is barreling upon us. Yeah, have you either you guys voted yet, or will you wait until?
No, I might do that tomorrow, actually.
Yeah,
Well, I live in a smaller community, so
yeah.
my polling place is actually within it, so it shouldn't
Okay,
be too bad for me to
cool.
just go ahead and do it on the day.
Yeah, I
Not
will be
that our
working.
votes really matter all that much, mine and Ryan's.
Speaking of, like, I will probably not be around. We may not record Monday. Well, definitely not Monday because I'll be doing. I do poll working every year, and so Tuesday I will be up at 4 to be at the polling place at 5, and then I'm basically there until 10 o'clock.
I pray for Giuliani to casually throw your name out as someone suspected of doing something illegal. I pray
Yeah,
you could be the next Fannie Willis.
that's one thing. It's like having done it several years, and obviously I'm sure every state's a little bit different, but it's like on one hand there are quite not a lot, but there are a few people who are kind of morons that work the polls. A lot of good people, but the good thing is that it's virtually impossible to cheat at any scale. There's just so many built-in checks and redundancies, and things that, like, you know for anybody to really cheat, they're really just it's like they be doing it over one or two votes, and then you're risking, like, you're risking a felony to not change anything. So, for the most part, like, it's made me, like, yeah, it's like, yeah, there's some people there that aren't great at what they're doing, but it's so secure, that it's pretty impressive. It's annoying, but you realize, like, yeah, that there's a reason why there are just so many things that you have to do. There's so many steps for everything because you really want to make sure that every vote, it's like every single ballot's accounted for. And it'd be impossible to cheat at any kind of scale.
See, now having firsthand knowledge, you know that, but the
Yeah,
layman that's never done poll work, you can't convince most of these people that things are
no,
being done legitimately because
it's crazy.
they've torn apart the system or torn down
Yeah,
faith in the system so much that it's like, well, they're not letting Republicans inside in Michigan. It's like, no, there were Republicans inside. They're just
yeah,
not letting anybody inside.
yeah,
People are
exactly.
banging at the door because they want to get in and they're not allowed because they're
Yeah.
not election workers.
Exactly. There are inspectors, there are poll watchers, there are people who and they are there. They're no, yeah, but you're right. Like, you just don't let Joe random person, like, to into while they're counting ballots, who knows what the hell they've got in their mind.
Watch it, Ryan.
But yeah, it's like I've talked to a few people who are skeptical. The good thing is when I kind of explain, just some of the steps that are involved, that seems to pull them a little bit, to the reality, that these are, this is not like, we're not a third world country, like, yet. So, we at least as far as elections are concerned, that's secure. Now, I think if you want to talk about how the media deals with things and social media, sure, that's a whole other thing. But as far as just physically how ballots are counted and how things work like that, it'd be really hard to cheat at any scale, even with, like, because I know I've also had people. I was talking to somebody the other day about, like, about voter ID, and they were arguing about, oh, what about voter ID? You could just, anybody can walk in and vote, and kind of talking about why there are issues with that, but also, like, even with voter ID, like, it's really hard to cheat, and again, what you're risking to cheat is crazy, because it is very likely jail time. So, like, if I'm going to go, let's say, like, I know somebody who's not going to vote, right? Like, let's say, Cynic, I know you never vote. I could go to your polling place and say, I'm Cynic, and, and vote for you. And then if you happen to go and vote, that then it's a red flag, and, I'm risking, again, a felony for one vote. So it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I know we're going to talk about it later in the show, but the one thing that I would wish is that every state get on the same page as far as all the rules. I don't like, each state having their own set of rules. It would just make it easier if they're all voting for the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Why not us all subside on one rule? That's the one thing that I would like. But
and that's fair.
We need this process as much as people want to spout hate and say, oh, this side, that side. We need both. I understand one side is kind of drifted off a little further than we would like them to, but it shows that when one party rules, like even a state or even a big city like Flint for a long period of time, it doesn't help that city in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'd agree. And I think we do need this process. I think ideally there would be more parties.
Yeah, well, that would be my biggest thing. If I could wish for anything, right? We need a third party.
We have two parties, so a lot of times you're stuck aligning yourself with one or the other, purely because, like, there's the one or two issues that are most important to you. And then many people just feel like they don't have a party, or the party that they do have has no say. And so I think that's the frustrating thing, is that we're so dominated by the two parties, and I don't think that's going to change anytime. And unfortunately, then what happens every election cycle is you end up settling and voting against the other party versus voting for who you'd like to vote for.
Yeah.
And every cycle it's like, oh, that side's so bad that I've got to vote against them. And that's not, I'm just saying, even the other side feels that way. So you just set them in this process where I feel like we're never really, electing people that we want. So we're just kind of, electing, the anti.
We don't want. Yeah, we're not electing.
Well, I think it was out in Pennsylvania. They had to choose between Fetterman and Dr. Oz. And it's like, could you get two worse choices? Like, can I go for my dog? Can I write in my dog?
Seriously. Fetterman was one that initially I think a lot of people were excited about, but then he is quickly shown to not. It's like he's better than Dr. Oz, but he's not that great.
Yeah, things unraveled for him in a hurry, and now he's just up waving an Israeli flag somewhere. And I just do not get it. I don't get it at all.
I know, yeah. It's like, can you show your bought and paid for, anymore? But okay, so anyway, while we're on politics, let's jump to the big elephant in the room, literally, right? The GOP's an elephant, right? So did you guys watch the Tony Hinchcliffe set at the Trump rally?
I saw the bits and pieces of it.
I mean, it's interesting, right? Because, like, it's for all of us as, like, UFC fans, it's kind of amazing how the Joe Rogan kind of cinematic universe has become so powerful, to the point that, like, he's got Trump on his podcast. He has there are questions of whether or not Kamala might be on his podcast, but I think he said there were issues, like they wanted to fly him out, but also that the people within his sphere, like literally this set, could affect the entire election, and that somebody in like the Joe Rogan verse,
Yeah.
theoretically could move the entire election's crazy. But Cynic, did you watch it, and like what are your thoughts on that?
I did, and unfortunately, Tony's kind of grown on me a little bit. Like, I like his podcast. I like roast comedy, but the difference between what he did up there and roast comedy is I'm doing roast comedy directly at you. If I'm going to talk about Justin or Justin's people, I'm doing it to Justin where he is free to respond. And when you just go out and do that on a public platform and just take wide shots at large groups of people, it's just not going to work out well. And what kills me is that Tony Hinchcliffe has had the hardest time breaking through. He gets this sweet spot and he does a fantastic job at the Tom Brady roast. He gets eyes on him. I'm sure his internet buzz has gone up tenfold. And now he turns around and does this. So now nobody's going to touch you with a 10-foot pole other than the Republicans.
Yeah. Well, that's it's interesting. Like, I think he's funny. I don't think he's like as horrible. I think all of a sudden you have people saying he's like a so-called comedian and stuff. No, it's like I've seen the show. I'm not a huge fan of roast comedy. It can be good at times, but he's not an unfunny person, right? And his show is not unfunny. And they've had, I've seen clips where they do have good people, and I think I don't love the like punching down so much part of it a lot of times. But you're right, like you have a chance to punch back at him in that setting. And I think what really like even those jokes, like they're clearly racist and inappropriate in that setting. But there are settings where it's okay. And yeah, if you're on his show, that's what you expect. And again, that person's probably going to say something back to him. I think the cardinal sin for me is just, it wasn't funny. It was like hacky material. I think that's the worst part of it, right? It's like those jokes were like, if you said to me, hey, Ryan, come up with joke, like I'm not a comedian, but if you're like, come up with a joke about these different ethnicities and races, those are the exact things you're going to pull out, right? Because it's just such hacky material. So that was almost like the worst part of it. It was just so bad. It wasn't
for a guy that's so laid back. He looked completely uncomfortable and out of his element. And that's the Achilles heel of all comedy, is it actually being funny. And it landed flat in every single turn.
Because it's not even like, it's not even like you heard it and you laughed and you were mad at yourself for laughing at it, which I'm sure has happened to all of us. Like you hear a really bad, awful, off-putting, inappropriate joke, and it's like, oh shit, that was kind of funny, but that was awful. It wasn't, you're not even that. It was just like, okay, he's just being racist to be racist, and it was bad, and he was just picking like the most obvious, things there, so there was nothing clever about it. So.
Well, I grew up listening to Howard Stern and then moved over to Opie and Anthony. So inappropriate was where I was at throughout my 20s and 30s. So, none of that really kind of makes me flinch. But when it's not funny, then it never works out.
But like the media's grabbed a hold of it, and like, there's this issue with like, Puerto Ricans apparently in Pennsylvania are a large part of the population. And when you're in a state that could literally be determined by a few thousand votes, like you don't want to anger, an entire group of people.
But that's the problem, is that I have a diehard Puerto Rican coworker and unfazed. I don't care. Trump didn't say it. It doesn't represent how he feels.
But anecdotally, it does seem like, I think that, we'll see both ways, but there are quite a few people who kind of like, that's it. Or what's worse is more somebody who's like not motivated to vote, but they did not want Trump, and now they're going to go out and vote because of that. Like that's the thing, is like that's a mobilizing type of thing. And you're right. There are people who are just going to be like, yeah, whatever, it wasn't him, even though his people vetted it. And did Trump clear the scripts? No, because he doesn't read. But like, his people did.
They absolutely saw those jokes before he went out there.
Oh yeah.
To put him on a platform, let him spew hate, and then disavow him is just disingenuous.
Yeah, so it's interesting because it may well like turn the tides of the election, which is it's insane that this is the world, we're in, the UFC commentator.
And if it does, how quickly does MAGA turn on Tony Hinchcliffe?
Oh, very quickly.
He's gonna get some Mike Pence treatment for sure.
Yeah, seriously. No, I would not want to be him. If it turns on it and it turns out like that, it was like a few thousand votes in like Pennsylvania that turned the tides or something. That would be crazy. So anyway, so let's get some more news. We've got the World Series is going on. Have you guys Justin, you been watching the World Series now that the Mets are not in it?
Yeah. The first game was good. The rest of them haven't been particularly entertaining.
Yeah.
I guess
Well,
a little bit. They've been
it's been the
okay,
Freddie
but okay.
Freeman show, which has been
Yeah.
fantastic because I'm a huge fan of his. He now broke the World Series record, passing cheater George Springer with 6 games in a row with a home run. So that makes me happy. Anytime any of those Astros records can get whitewashed, that overjoys me. So and he's a fantastic guy, family man. I've rooted for Freddie Freeman a long time. The only thing that ever disappointed me is that he didn't sign with the Yankees or Mets, or so we could see him locally, because he's one of the best ball players I've ever seen. But once again, we'll go back to talking about the World Series and what happened last night. An unfortunate incident in the first inning. Mookie Betts went into foul territory for a catch, and a couple of fans grabbed his arm and tried to rip his glove from his hand.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm talking about, how the level has the bar has just dropped to the ground, because I bring it up to other Yankee fans and they're like, oh, I'm fine with it. But meanwhile, the whole internet is like, oh, way to go, Yankee fans, keep it classy. Even Justin fired off his barb earlier today about how classless we are. And then I'm like, do you not, even if this turned the tide and they won the World Series because of this, is this how you wanted to win? No. Because that's how it's going to be remembered. The 96 series is still marred by the fact that Jeter's home run ball was stolen during the playoffs by Denny Mayer. So I wouldn't want to win that way as a fan.
Yeah.
And it definitely disappointed me with their reaction to it. I was happy to see that the Yankees were just going to kind of wave it off, but MLB requested that fan be. He was kicked out in the first inning.
Two of them
yep.
were not allowed.
Well,
back.
It was him and a friend, but
are they banned for life, or are they just banned for like?
No, but they weren't even going to be banned from tonight's game because they're season ticket holders. And MLB requested that they be banned from tonight's game, which they were. But I think the Yankees refunded them. But what bothered me about it was the other guy that grabbed Mookie Betts wasn't even one of them ones that got thrown out. It was the guy and the guy sitting next to him. So the whole thing is unfortunate. Mookie Betts is a great guy, a great player, a great ambassador for the sport, and don't make fucking contact with the players ever. No, and the players should never make contact with the fucking fans. It boggles my mind how people can't see how wrong that is.
Yeah, and I'm a big Yankee fan, but that's not a way to win. And those players, like those fans, should be banned like at least a season. Because you don't grab players, you don't interfere. It's one thing to like have your glove out. It's another thing to like touch a player and
one of my coworkers said, "Well, it got the fans into the game. That's what you need to get into the game. You need to injure someone or be classless. No.
Then you shouldn't. You shouldn't be involved if that's what it's got to be. That's crazy. It's unfortunate. But yeah, I think I was saying like I will be glad to eat my words next time we talk. But after game one, the way that game ended, like we were talking about this earlier, like that's like that's a moment that was over. The series is over. It's like you don't come back from that. I don't think so. Unfortunately, I've accepted that the Yankees are going to lose.
The Dodgers are just a better team all around.
Yeah,
in every facet.
Yeah, that's probably more what it comes down to.
Yeah. All right. So another thing came out this week, actually yesterday, that Vince McMahon, who's been a frequent topic on this podcast lately, is reportedly starting a new entertainment company focused on film and TV. And apparently he's bringing in other like old WWE executives to join in on the project. So this is his first big move since Endeavor. So Cynic, one, are you surprised that he's not starting a wrestling company? And two, is this going to go the direction of the wrestling takeover in the 80s, or is it going the direction of the XFL?
It's going nowhere good, because wrestling is his base, and if he moves away from that, it's just, we've seen what happens with the World Bodybuilding and the XFL and every other venture that he tries outside of the WWF, which his father basically handed to him, on a silver platter. Like, all right, here it is, and he improved on it, and he was great at what he did. But I mean, I just feel like, how do you sexually harass your subordinates if you don't have any? You have hundreds of millions of dollars. Just ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see you anymore. His family has distanced themselves from him. There's nobody speaking out for him. Who's going to want to work for a guy with such a spotty record? It's definitely nobody with a vagina.
Yeah. What do you think, Justin?
So it's one of those things where we're expecting it to crash and burn, and it probably will. So what is it? He's trying to make movies or shows or
Yeah,
something like
at this
that?
point, it seems like it's both nonfiction and nonfiction. But
Nonfiction.
it's not. They've
Weird.
not really. It doesn't seem to be wrestling.
So here's the thing. He'll have money behind it, and maybe he'll hire good people. So the thing is, all he needs is a hit on his hand. If one of the shows, if one of the movies is good, right? Like for whatever reason, well, now he's like, well, look, I made something good, and it sort of changes the narrative a little bit. So the question is, can he come up with? I think because at the end of the day, people remember what they like. If he has a hit movie or a hit show, then if his production company does it, then yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's possible for him to float into the background of it and just sort of. I don't know how much of a role like it's and how he's going to take or how much of it is going to be him behind it or influencing the product. Like, do we know? Like, is he creative control? Is it just his company that's doing
no details have come out yet, but he's got the money to finance something, and one would assume he's a control freak, so you would assume he'd be in control, which is probably not a good thing.
That's
because most of his ventures have failed that are not pro wrestling. As Cynic said, you have the XFL, you've got the World Bodybuilding Federation. There was like WWF Films or WWE Films or whatever. Like a lot of these other ventures.
That was my next point. Did you see any of those movies with John Cena or Randy Orton or Rotten Tomatoes laughing them out? And I was looking for the name of the movie Hogan did with Zeus.
No Holds Barred.
Oh, No Holds Barred. That was fucking terrible.
Oh, that's one of the great B movies of all time.
I mean, I would
give me They Live any day of the week over No Holds Barred.
Yeah. So here's the thing, Justin. I think we were at an age where we loved No Holds Barred because it was just Hulk Hogan, and we did not realize how awful it was.
Oh no, but that's why it's good. It's like bad. It's so bad. It's good. I enjoy it because it's so cheesy and campy and ridiculous and just like awful. It's like a terrible movie, but that's why it's good.
It was pretty terrible.
I guess that's damning praise,
So no, I doubt it's going to be interesting, but I don't think he's going to be. He's still got litigation and a lot to go through. So it's like, if he's guilty, I don't know how if this is like a non-starter. How does this even get off the ground? Or who will give him a chance? So
the most damning quote ever will always stick with him every time I see him. Even if it was rape, the statute of limitations was up.
Yeah. Yep. That's a Vince McMahon. All right, so now we'll get into some TV or movie news, really. So it was announced that Spider-Man 4 is going to be in theaters in July of 2026. Tom Holland's going to return. It'll be after the release of Avengers Doomsday, which will be interesting because that's going to be in May of 2026. And it'll be directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who did Shang-Chi. But yeah, Tom Holland's back as Peter Parker, and looks like production is going to start in the middle of 2025. Cynic, are you excited about another Tom Holland-led Spider-Man film?
Yeah, of course. To me, Spider-Man is Tom Holland at this point. I like the other guys, but I think Tom Holland just was head and shoulders better than they were. And the movies were better because they were Marvel-based, and he got to interact with the other heroes. So I've liked his portrayal of Peter Parker a little bit better because I think it took the best parts from the other two and combined them together. I liked his the combination with Tony Stark. Thought that was great. It was a great launching point. I was looking forward to a street level crossover with Daredevil. I don't think we're going to get that. I think we're going to get rushed into the symbiote and the Venom costume, which I hear that Venom movie did absolutely great at the box office. Good job. You name anything Last Dance that doesn't have to do with Michael Jordan, and you've just got a problem.
That's actually one of the stories we have. It's the news is not all terrible for Venom Last Dance. Justin, are you a fan of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies?
I haven't been too into it. I think by that point I just sort of felt. I think I saw the first one that he did, and by then I had just sort of lost interest in the that sort of genre, like the Marvel movie genre. So I'm not. It's like one of those things that sort of bounces off me as indifferent. But if it's a good movie, I would go see it. Sure.
Yeah, no, they're definitely good movies. So worth checking out if you have a chance. Um, yeah, and I'm excited. Tom Holland's great as Spider-Man. I think his movies, I think the Into the Spider-Verse movies to me are just as good as the recent Spider-Man movies, but they're all excellent. And so I'm excited to watch. I'm excited for that. I'm glad
What
that
is
he's back.
taking so long for us to get another one of those?
I thought it was finished, like, and it was just in production, or like they were very deep into production, but they haven't even announced another date for that, right?
Yeah, it's disappointing because now it's been so long that I feel like
Yeah.
it's kind of lost momentum.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how I feel. Like it's same thing. It's like I'm like I was super excited, and it's like initially it was like, okay, we got what, a year or whatever it was, but now it's like who knows when this thing is coming out.
Well, the Black Noir Nicolas Cage Spider-Man
Yeah,
movie is in production. I saw that the other day.
I didn't have that on a list to talk about. But some of the set photos look pretty cool, so I'm excited. The Spider-Man noir, and Nicolas Cage is just good and whatever at this point in his career. All right, and then another story. I was hoping to have Ig on to talk about this because I know where you're gonna go with it, Cynic. But so Star Wars: The New Jedi Order, which is Daisy Ridley's return as Rey, has it looks like the writer it lost another writer. So screenwriter Stephen Knight, who was supposed to write this film, is out, and Lucasfilm is now searching for another writer to continue the story. I'm sure this will delay it further as they find a new writer. Cynic, are you massively disappointed that we're gonna have to wait for the next Ray story?
I met somebody recently that said that they were a new trilogy fan, which just boggled my mind. I don't want it to be canon. I want them to move away from it. I don't know why they're trying to force it. When you go through this type of thing with a movie where you're going through directors and writers and the star is unhappy and the Disney is unhappy, you're forcing it and it's not meant to be. And just leave it alone. Maybe we give it the Hayden Christensen treatment and let it sit for 20 more years, and then we have her back as a slightly older Ray, and maybe people will forgive how painfully awful those movies were.
I wouldn't say painfully awful. One of them was painfully awful.
Yes, the one you like the most.
We agree to disagree. And Justin, sorry, you're like out of this because you haven't seen any of
Yes.
seen any of them. From Cynic's
Nor
perspective,
really
you
interested
probably
in
don't.
seeing them.
Huh?
Nor am I interested in seeing them.
You shouldn't be. I would rather see you drive from Tennessee and Jersey back 3 times than watch this.
Yeah, pretty much.
See, that's why you need. Well, no, he wouldn't agree with me as much, but he would at least he'd take more of a neutral ground on it. Until I say that The Last Jedi is among the best Star Wars movies ever made.
It's your one fatal flaw, Ryan. You're near a perfect person and a friend.
It's a great movie. All right, then we'll talk. So before we're gonna get into what we've been watching, but wanted to talk about Venom: The Last Dance. So interestingly, it opened to 51 million domestically. So it had a pretty weak opening, but it did hit 175 million globally. I think it did 46 million in China. And my stupid lights.
The movie gods do not agree with this story.
Yeah, right.
We're on break right now. Hold on. All right, I'll be right back.
No,
You got
break.
it?
Well,
Okay,
yeah, I'm back. But if you need to run, because again,
Justin was going to run to the store.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry. So yeah, it opened to 51 million domestically, but overseas it reached 175 million, or it reached 175 million globally. So it did much better than expected. And so it's supposed to be the last Venom movie, but who knows? Especially with Tom Holland back, and I love Tom Hardy in this role. But Cynic, your thought? Do you think that this gives them a thought of bringing him back, or do you think that the weak opening domestically is probably the end for this character?
I think this is the end of the Sony-led Marvel movies. They just haven't been what Sony's needed them to be as far as profit. It would be easier for them to hand the properties over to Marvel, let them make the movies, and split the dividends, because it's not working over there. It's been miss after miss after miss. I really think that they probably should have held Carnage for the third movie, maybe teased them a little bit in the second. I haven't seen the third movie yet. I probably will at one point, maybe when it ends up on Disney Plus or something. I'm not going to go out of my way. Just if I start seeing 10s and 15s on rating sites, it's just like, I could probably hold off and save the cash and not go and skip this one. And more often than not, unfortunately, in the superhero genre, that's been the case. It's just been miss after miss.
Well, I'll talk about it a little bit when we get to, well, we'll get to this now. I guess we can talk about what we've been watching. I'll talk about Venom because that was the one thing I've seen this week. But Justin, have you been watching anything in the last couple of weeks?
I've been seeing a few movies.
Anything good?
So not bad. So one thing this will echo or pre-echo what we're a little bit later with our horror movie Halloween discussion. But I saw the movie, that one that I really enjoyed as a kid. The movie was Candyman. It was a horror movie, scary movie, and we'll get to that later. But they did a reboot a couple years back, and I said, "Oh, how did I miss this?" And loved the movie as a kid, and I did not enjoy this movie. It would have been a good movie if Jordan Peele had done it, because there was the sort of undertones of societal injustice and racism, and they touched on that, but it wasn't good the way they did it. Like, you know how when Jordan Peele does it, it's really interesting how he makes his films. I think if he had done this film, it could have been really good. But it fell flat. It wasn't scary at all, and it was just weird. It was an odd decision that they had for it. So I was very disappointed in the reboot of it. And along the so while I was on this sort of like horror movie kick, and they said this was a horror movie, but it wasn't I didn't really know about it, think of it as a horror movie. It was a movie called Don't Move. I sort of enjoyed it. The main characters kind of reminds us of people that we know, and the sort of premise of it is that a woman is drugged so that she can't move physically, and they have this psychopath that's sort of carting her around, and they have this strange relationship. And there's a couple things I could have been better, but it wasn't bad. It's sort of like one of those movies where like where they do a lot of things to annoy you, like the police shows up and is like wondering like what's going on, like is he going to save this woman, is he going to say it, like and all these things happen that make you think that she's going to get rescued at some point, and of course it all never happens until it does. And but I thought it wasn't bad, especially because I liked the main villain. He reminded me of like people that we know, sort of narcissistic people. And so I didn't mind that part, although I thought the movie could have been a little stronger, but not a bad watch.
Yep. How about you, Cynic? You been watching anything?
We're just about through Game of Thrones again, which is It's been a fun watch, and there's a couple eye-opening scenes to me that I don't know why they didn't dawn on me the other times that I watched. Like, for instance, how far out Cersei was in the woods when during the whole religious fanatics arc. Like, she was done. She didn't have an ally. Before she blew up the Sept, she was completely finished. And I thought that was better writing than I gave it credit for after watching it, like how she kind of got her revenge on everybody in one small swoop. I mean, other than that and baseball, it's just been really nothing of note. We're keeping up with Penguin. We're keeping up with Tulsa King, all stuff like that.
How are you liking Penguin so far?
Fucking fantastic.
Yeah,
like,
so
I just don't have a bad thing to say about it. I really... I can tell you, I mean, you guys could probably say it, that I was kind of hating on the idea because I just thought it was completely unnecessary. I thought he was an interesting character, but I thought he was derivative of other mob characters. But they've done such a good job telling the story that it doesn't it matter as much that he's not kind of an original character.
No. Yeah, and so like he melts into that, obviously in the makeup and into the role so much, Colin Farrell, that it's still incredible to watch. So yeah, it's really, really well done. And yeah, so like I'm still not caught up completely. I think I'm one episode behind on Penguin. I mentioned last week I've been watching What We Do in the Shadows, which has been great. It's such a good show, and it's as funny as ever, and sad that it's on its last season, but that's been really good if you haven't watched it. But I did get to watch Venom, The Last Dance, this weekend, and like I always say with the first two movies, they're not good movies, but I love the kind of chaos and absurdity of them and the kind of humor then it comes down to the relationship between Eddie Brock and Venom, with both played by Tom Hardy. And I think this movie still nails what the first two movies, get right. Like, the movies aren't good, but they're fully, completely entertaining, fun to watch, and I'm engaged because of the performance. And I think this movie, continues on that road. We'll say, like, there is one scene in this movie. Like, the plot is very boring, not boring, but very straightforward comic booky plot. There really isn't much of a story. It's kind of a road trip ish movie. There is an amazing scene that I really loved. It's probably my favorite scene and moment in the entire series that does happen, on the road, which I loved. And then there's a really terrible scene that's like a dance scene. That's one of the worst scenes I've seen in this movie or anything comic related. But all in all, it's exactly what I expected and what I wanted. It's a fun ride, entertaining. If you had a good time with the first two movies, you'll have a good time with this. It's by no means like must-watch TV or must-watch movies, but again, you get a great Tom Hardy performance as both characters. There's some cool action. We get a horse, like the symbiote, like, we get a Venom horse, which is a fun scene. And like I said, there is this one really awesome scene, with him just in a car with the family, that I really enjoyed. But yeah, it was entertaining. And again, if you're a fan of the character and you had a fun time with the first two, totally worth seeing. If not, if you didn't like the first two, you're not going to like this one anymore. But I had a good time as expected. So let's get to, so we got one more thing to talk about. So it's Halloween. So sticking in theme, we're going to talk about horror movies. So we're going to go with three, have three categories for you guys. So let's start with, and Cynic, I want to thank you for these. You came up with this, so I want to give you credit for that. So the first one we're going to go with, and I'll start with you, Justin, is what was this?
Hey, wasn't it my idea to come up with something Halloween themed?
All right, you guys tag teamed it, right? You said Halloween theme, and then
he
Cynic,
gets no credit for this. Not only did I do it, but I did it on the fly.
Yeah. So
I did it live, damn it.
So we're gonna start with you, Justin. What was the movie that scared you the most as a child?
So I'm gonna go with Candyman. That movie was really, really scary. I thought, because part of it, look, it caught me at a young enough age where it still didn't, where I could still be scared, by a movie, probably 9 or so. Yeah, it was just the tone of it. It was crazy. Just the idea that, like, you would say his name into a mirror and he would, like, come out behind you and kill you. I thought, it was a creepy movie. It was scary. I remember being scared as a kid, like, and it keeping me up. And I remember I loved horror movies as a kid. I was really not scared. Either that or Pee-wee's Great Adventure, when he was in the car and, like, the thing with the eyes, like, that freaked me out. But, like, that's not really a horror movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was it.
How about you, Cynic?
It's probably a very little known movie, but it's from the 80s. It's called Dark Night of the Scarecrow. Okay. And yeah, it hit me in all the wrong places. Like, I grew up watching Freddy's Nightmares and Tales of the Crypt and Twilight Zone, and for some reason that movie scared the bejesus out of me, and I still won't watch it.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. I was gonna say one is not a horror. I was gonna say Drop Dead Fred, like, that scared me, but, like, it's not a horror movie, so I'm not gonna count that. But the one,
okay.
Same thing. Like, I grew up, I was scared of what was under my bed. Okay. But no, same thing. Grew up watching horror. I watched all the Freddy movies and, Friday the 13th. And none of that really scared me. But the one thing I remember vividly as a kid, like, keeping me up at night, was I watched Alien.
Okay, that's a horror movie.
That scared the hell out of me. And for whatever reason, I remember that, like, I couldn't go to sleep the night that I watched it. And that, like, my mom was kind of pissed, and I was like, I really had a hard time that night going to sleep after watching Alien. So that would be my choice.
You know what?
The original?
I'm mixing two. I think it's the original that was the one that scared me. I remember watching Aliens, but I'm pretty sure it's the original. No, it was definitely the original.
The first one was a lot scarier.
It was definitely the original. It was definitely the original. Yeah.
You know what freaked me out too as a kid? It wasn't a movie, but a TV show. It was a show called Land of the Lost. It was always on in like the middle of the night back, when the TV first came back on, and it would be on at like 4 or 5 in the morning. And it would be these people living in a cave and these lizard people trying to kill them. And for some reason, those lizard people freaked me out. I don't know why. It was just the way they looked and probably the time of night, but I just could not watch that show as a kid.
Yeah. All right. So now we'll get to the second question is, if you could have one horror movie to watch for the rest of your life, what would that be, Justin?
Without a doubt, my favorite, the original Halloween.
Okay.
100%. It's I watch it once a year. It's the sort of movie that you wish there was more, like there was just more of it. Mm-hmm. It's like that you could just watch it and that more would happen. Like if it would be the same movie, only more, right? The sequel to it is okay, but it's just nothing touches the first, even though it's not super gory compared to some of the other ones, but it's just such a well-made movie. And it's the sort of gold standard for the slasher flick. I don't believe there's ever been a slasher movie made as good as that one since it came out.
How about you, Cynic?
Well, I like horror stuff that's kind of based in reality or that could happen. So I fall under the category of like Last House on the Left or Wrong Turn or The Hills Have Eyes. But for me, the very tippy top is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like you don't get much scarier than that. You don't get much real. It doesn't feel more real than that movie does. It almost feels as if you're watching a snuff film.
Yeah.
Cool. Mine was, that's an interesting question because the next question I'm going to ask you guys is what's just your favorite, which sometimes that can overlap. But for me, actually, I'm going to say one to watch for the rest of my life would probably be The Ring. It's not the greatest movie, not a bad movie at all, but it just has the best scare almost in anything. It's a nice little mystery. It's engaging throughout. But just the TV thing is just, one of those moments that, one of those cinematic moments that you just remember forever. Like it's such a great moment. So that would probably be the one if I'm just going to watch the rest of my life because it has everything you want, like in a horror movie. The jump scares, the big reveal, the mystery, all those things, the tension, it has all those things built into it and does a really good job with it. So I'd probably go with The Ring. All right, now Justin. So now, with that in mind, what's your favorite horror?
That Halloween is also my favorite. But if I had to throw another one in there, I would say the original Exorcist as well, because it's just an excellent movie, just really like a compelling movie. The power of Christ compels you.
How about you, Cynic?
Probably Nightmare on Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors. Just something about that movie always resonated with me. I guess just
like the song from Dokken.
Yeah, of course. But after watching him just slaughter the kids in the first two movies, it was nice to see them finally fight back. I believe Friday the 13th, Part 7 as well. He fought like a telekinetic, which was very cool to me. Like them having the ability to kind of stand physically toe to toe with Freddy or Jason, I thought was great.
Yeah. And yeah, for me, I would go with, so you mentioned Jordan Peele earlier, Justin. I would go with Us. Actually, it's more kind of psychological thriller as well. But I just love that movie. We just watched it a couple days ago. I love it. I think it has all the elements you want in horror. It has a great twist in the end. It's a great score. You can almost fit into my rewatch for that's my life because I feel like it's kind of infinitely rewatchable. But I think it's a really smart movie, and in a lot of ways, I know like Get Out is the movie for Jordan Peele. In my opinion, I think it's a better movie than Get Out. So that's probably my favorite. But yeah, cool. So wow, we got in less than 45 minutes today, so it was a good one. nice, short and sweet.
Last I checked, the Yankees were winning.
Yeah. What's the score?
4-0 in the third.
Oh, wow. Yeah, interesting. I mean, who knows? That could change a lot, but if you make it 3-2,
well, they have Cole pitching tonight. They don't have much after that.
Exactly.
There's a big.
They don't have him pitching the next 2 days.
Exactly.
But hey, look, we'll see. Won't get my hopes up yet. But yeah, so all of our stuff is at portableholepublishing.com. And on all the social media stuff, we are at portable_hole. So definitely check us out. We should be back next week-ish, but I got to see with the poll working and everything. But anyway, Justin, until next time.
Watch out for the hole.
Nice. Cool.
Wow. It's amazing how different my internet's been the last couple times we've done this.
Really?
It's done recording already.
Yeah.
Like the second we stopped, it was done. Sometimes it was going all night.
Yeah.
I've got these little antennas on the back of my they're they pick up signal, and sometimes they get loose and it just works like shit. Yeah. Are we doing D&D this weekend or no?
Yeah, I'm good. Are you good, Justin?
I think so. Yeah, I'm good.
Cool.
Okay, so it's going to be a costume party, and we're not doing any combat. We're just going to sneak around this whole adventure.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
We can zigzag. It won't be linear, I promise. You just got to kill shit. That's all I know how to do. I got an email today. It sounds like they've been upgraded the D&D app a little bit where I don't need to have multiple screens open. Like I can run encounters and be on the map at the same time. So I got to take a look at that later this week. I don't have anything planned, so I got to throw something together in the next couple days.
Very good.
Cool. Nice.
All right.